Hello students, welcome again this particular bright day. Today we're going to be looking at year 9 biology, and our topic of discussion will be focused on populations. We're going to be discussing the populations. Remember that we have been looking at the development of the different organisms. When we have fertilization taking place, different organisms are given rise to. For the plants, after pollination, fertilization, we have the fruits, the seeds formed, dispersal takes place, and then after the dispersal has taken place, it means that we shall have the growth of the plants of a given species in a particular environment, and that is what we're going to be looking at today. Now, our main objective for our lesson today is that at the end of it all, we should be in a position to explain the factors which affect the growth of a given population. Remember that for any particular population to grow, there must be some specific factors which contribute to the growth of such a population. So today we're going to be looking at the different factors which work together, resulting into the growth of a given population and the pattern of growth in a given population. We have the general growth, and then we have the pattern of growth. In terms of the general growth, when we have an increase in number, definitely that is considered to be growth. But when we have a very sharp increase in the number, then that is what we call rapid growth. And when we have a smaller increase in number, then that will be a slightly slower growth. Now, the term population, it's important for us to revisit this particular term. It refers to all the members of a given species, all the members of a given species which are found or who are found in a particular habitat at a particular time. All the members that belong to the same species who are found in a specific habitat, and not just any time, but within a specified time at a particular time. Now, I want us to dissect this into different parts. We're looking at all the members of a given species. That means that we can have population of a particular species of grass. We can have the population of bananas. We can also have the population of the grasshoppers, and so on and so forth. As long as they are members of the same species, then we can refer to them as a population. Then this particular population must be within a particular habitat. That is what it means by population. They must be found or located in a specific habitat. So the issue of the habitat here comes in also to play a role in determination of the population of a given species. So when you're looking at the aquatic animals, then we're looking at the animals which are inside the water. When you're looking at the terrestrial animals, we're looking at the animals found on the dry land and which particular location in the dry land. Then when looking at the population, we do this within specified periods. You can't deal with the population generally. You must have deal with this within a specified period. Now, the human population is normally determined when the census is done over a period of time. I'm sure most of us must have been exposed to the census exercise, where some government officials will pass around, come into our homes, ask us questions, and so on and so forth. As they complete the questionnaire on the number of people present, the property owned, any animals present, any deaths or newborns, and so on and so forth. They take all that information. The significance of this is to ensure that we have resources that can be shared effectively according to the numbers. Now, for our case in this country, Kenya, census is normally done after every 10 years. we have the census after every 10 years. That means that when we have census, for example, this year, then the next census will be done 10 years from now. 10 years from now. Now, they normally give a lengthy duration to allow or to give a wider scope of coverage. Because let's say if census were to be done every year, and then someone is born this, let's say it's done in January, and someone is born in January, counted, then that person dies in February, it means that the figures will be different. Or alternatively, if in January the census is done, and maybe someone was pregnant, it means the the kid in the womb will not be counted. And then this kid gets born, let's say in April, it will give a different picture. So they normally give this at a wider area or a wider duration to enable as many people to be captured as possible, so that the estimate will be very close to the true figure. Then the figures obtained are then used by the government when it comes to the planning of the distribution of the resources. Resource allocation is a very key issue in almost all the economies in the world, and therefore the population determination will be able to enable the country to be able to plan. Areas where we have a larger population explosion will be given priority in terms of the distribution of these particular resources. And then areas where the explosion is very minimal will also be given an proportionate amount of resources. Similarly, when it comes, for example, the animals, when we have a very fast increase in the number of animals, for example, within a particular game park, then we must find a way of making sure that they get enough of the food. If, let's say, you come to the home setup, you have the goats, and goats are multiplying at a faster rate, then you must be able to create more shed to be able to accommodate the large numbers. So you are planning for the shed because there is an increase in population. That's why the aspect of population census helps in the planning. Now, growth of population or its decline normally depends on quite a number of factors which keep on altering the shape of a population. That is the growth or the decline. That means these factors can either make the population to grow, or they can lead to the decline of the population or the shape of the population. And these factors are quite a number. One of them is food. Reliable supply of food. Now, when you look at the aspect of food is quite important, because this provides the nutrients, adequate nutrients for all the organisms, all the living organisms, be it plants or the animals. So if we have the food that is able to provide enough of the nutrients, then there will be no problem, there will be no worry amongst the organisms in terms of their survival. They will be assured. If, let's say, for example, you go to the game parks and you find a region where we have a river, definitely where we have a river, it means that there will be some plant growing. And when you have the plants growing, it implies that there will be possibilities of enough food growing along that particular region, as opposed to the areas where we have scarcity of water resources in a particular region. When we have scarcity of water, definitely the plant cover in the region will be very minimal. So if we don't have enough plants, then the animals within that particular environment cannot survive because of the inadequate food. So food as a factor is able to determine the steady growth of a given population. And remember, this can only be done when the food itself is reliable. Not that this year there is adequate food, the next 3 years there is no food. Such a population will also be affected unsteadily. Now, adequate food can be obtained when we have reliable rainfall, and also the adequate amount of water from the same rainfall per year. That means per annum supply of the rainfall should be adequate enough to ensure that there is a proper growth of the plants that provide the food to the animals. So it is very common that if you go to an area where we have an adequate supply of rainfall, you are likely to meet very many living organisms, especially the animals. Let's take a case example. If you go to a place where, let's say for example, the central province, the western part of Kenya, the coastal strip where we have the rainfall, the forests, and so on and so forth, you'll discover that the population of the birds, for example, there will be very many. You go to such areas, you'll find a lot of noise from the different species of birds. Why? It is because they have access to sufficient amount of food. They can be able to feed effectively. So they keep on reproducing, knowing that there will be food for their generations that will be born after them. So food as a factor must be also reliable, and therefore the reliability depends on the reliable amount of rainfall supply per year in a given place. Let's look at the other remaining factors in our second part of our discussion. See you in the next part.